Gather round, dads, it's time for a tale. Hand me a book and a warm pint of ale. Let's discuss writing and the literary gods with Dan Roberts on the Dadlit Pod.
Welcome to the Dadlit Pod, the literary podcast for those who know that this is good old Boston, the home of the bean and the cod, where the Lowells talk only to the Cabots and the Cabots talk only to God. My guest today, Mark A. Henry, a New Englander, knows all about the Cabots and the Lowells. Mark is the author of the novels Lacking Evidence to the Contrary and the Honolulu Situation. He's a 10-time winner of the Hartford Current Cartoon Caption Contest, a 4-time champion of the Hopewell Elementary School Field Day water balloon toss, and he once found a gold coin by following a treasure map. That's pretty good. He lives a charmed life in New England with his wife and 2 daughters. He is also the publisher of Operation Dodecahedron, or he's the mind and the energy behind the press, Operation Dodecahedron, which we're going to talk about, which published a terrific work of Dad Lit by Avner Landis called The Delegation, which I'm very interested to see why Mark decided to publish an obscure Israeli literary author. So anyway, Mark, welcome to the Dadlit Pod, longtime dad literati. Uh,
Thank you, Dan. Man, that's a great introduction, and I'm proud to say it's all true.
well, that's great. And Mark, both of Mark's daughters are now teachers, which is spectacular because we need more of those. It seems fairly clear.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I was a stay-at-home dad for a lot of years, and I'm proud to say my daughters both uh, grew up with style and grace, and they are now teachers. My older daughter teaches second grade. My younger daughter is just doing her first year teaching seventh grade, and they are enjoying it. And as I said, I couldn't be more proud of them.
It's interesting. There are a lot of dad literati who are stay-at-home dads.
I think it it
I
breeds
think that's the
experience, Dan. What can I tell you? Like,
I was gonna say, I think that's the only way that they can find time to read and write books.
yeah, and yeah, the material never stops coming either. I think is probably part of it. Also, you are truly in a front row seat for human nature when you have kids growing up through the house.
Yes, yes. So you started a press called Operation Dodecahedron, where I got my hat
Yes.
that says STFU, I'm performatively reading, which I brought to AWP and got many comments on.
Yeah, it's the
Uh,
perfect spot for it. Yeah, if not there, where? But yes, thank you. I saw you post about that, and yeah, I got a big kick out of that. So thank you, Dan. I was happy to see that. I did. I thought that was great. Thanks.
Yes. So what's the impetus behind starting your own press? Now, a lot of male authors start their own press to publish themselves, but you've branched out and you published Avner in his book, The Delegation.
That's true. I started it as simply a self-publishing venture, but for the cost of filling out 2 or 3 extra forms, you can form your own company and make it its own entity. So I thought, well, why not? I can at least like literally put my stamp on this thing by creating this brand of Operation Dodecahedron. So that was purely as a means to publish my first book, Lacking Evidence to the Contrary, which came out in 2013. No, 20. I started in 20. This is ancient history, Dan. Forgive me. Operation Dodecahedron first published, lacking evidence to the contrary, October of 2020. The Honolulu Situation in 2023. That was my second novel,
Mhm.
and I have another one due out in this fall, October 20th, 2026, called One. But
Yes.
in between all that, I was, getting myself into the writing publishing world. I was listening to podcasts and reading blogs and looking at Twitter and stuff like that. And one day I was listening to a podcast and I heard Abner on talking about his first book, Meiselman. And
Hmm.
I thought he sounded interesting. The book sounded funny. So I, you know, clicked on through and I bought Meiselman. And it was really funny. That book was so great. And I, I I think I wrote him like a nice long review on Amazon, Goodreads, wherever I could. And then I sent a note to him just saying, hey, I really appreciated your book. I, put something nice out there for you. I thought you should know, thanks for that. And, just kind of like, as an actor, because, he's right on Twitter. Like it's not hard to find, the names and addresses of authors you like. It's easy enough just to kind of
Yeah.
strike up a conversation with them. Um, and he wrote me back and said thanks very much. We just kind of struck up again a correspondence back and forth of doing stuff and kind of following each other as we went. And then at some point, he had written the delegation and was trying to find a publisher. And he called me one day and he said, hey, you've written your own books. Like, what is there to it? Like, what do I need to know? How could I do this? I'm like, well, I gave him a little very brief explainer of how I had done it, which again is simply a matter of,
Hmm.
sort of filling out a few forms and, doing a few clicks and taps here and there. And he said, oh, okay, he says, okay, thanks for the advice. And then, you know, shortly after that, I'm like, oh, he's like, I could, I explained it to him. I mean, I could just as easily do it for him. And like I said,
Hmm.
he was struggling to get his book published, but I read it. It was so great. It was like a very original piece of work, very stylishly, originally told. And I said, like, I would like to kind of join you on this project. Like, I can show you how to do it. Plus, we'll do it together. And
Hmm.
that worked out so great. I was able to kind of, bring that book out into the world. And I'm so proud of it. It's an awesome book that I am ashamed to say does not get as much attention as I think it deserves. Um,
Yes,
for
I would agree with you.
how clever it is that yeah, it's so great. And like I said, I jumped at the chance to kind of be a part of it. And then we've done quite well with it, but not as well as I think it deserves to
Mm.
be, if you get my meaning. So so yeah, between so for Operation Dodecahedron, I gained some means to publish my own books and this other book, but also gain a friend. Like Abner and I are very close now. And we did meet last summer. He was traveling through the U.S. Uh, and he stopped and we met for one brief afternoon, which was I think um, I don't know if many people get to do that these days, to meet in person. So I was glad he was able to.
Yeah, we
He flew in and he was driving from Boston to New York, and I'm like, well, I'll be in Rhode Island. You should stop by. It's basically right on the way. And of course, I got lead him into these huge traffic jams coming out of Boston. Poor guy. And by the way, I appreciated your poem at the outset. That was great. Thank you. The character notes. Yeah, that's right up my alley with this third novel. But I don't know, to make a long story short, yeah, Abner and I have become great friends as well as business partners in this. And I've just, I have my unnamed author, um, Enter the Flow, which came out at Christmas. And then I just signed a new author, Stephen Shacklin, and his book's going to come out probably next year. We're just going through some editing on that right now. So yeah, we've got a nice little, you know,
it
start of
sounds
something
like
here.
it sounds like a dad literati press.
Yeah, right. It's very true. Yeah, you had that name first. Otherwise, I shouldn't snatch that. But the yeah, Operation Day. That it's kind of like I have to admit that name was never meant to sort of grow beyond just publishing my first book. As I said, like that was
Hmm.
just my means of getting my first book out there. When I realized, like, oh, you could just do this. Like, there's no, there's I always said, my plan B is to, print and publish a book on the largest and most successful bookstore mankind has ever known. That's plan B. Like, think about what
Yeah.
that means
Yeah.
for guys like, I'm a little older than you are, I think, but I remember the days when, quote, self-published books were kind of like in spiral ring binders and you'd buy them
Mhm.
off the counter at the gas station. So, we've come a long way in the technology that allows us to do this. So I just feel like, there's a very brief time in history that since the, beginning of the printing press and what lays beyond that. It's a real you know treat to be able to write. So
Mhm.
I just want to kind of share that with as many people, and yeah, this is a great way to do it. So. But anyway, I'm sorry. Back to your question, Operation Dodecahedron. That's sort of a reference to just like a line in my first novel where the main character, he has this very Byzantine system of code words and security clearances and stuff, and he'll say like, I'm going to divide this crew into two groups, Operation Rhombus and Crew. He just like uses all these like weird jargon words to keep everybody sort of off balance and unsure of what the fuck he's doing. And I think one of the jokes in that book is like he says something like code security rhombus and trapezoid. So I was just like in the mindset of like sort of odd shapes as a way of sort of symbolizing something yet also symbolizing anything. So I said, "Oh, I'll call it Operation Dodecahedron." It's like it's a terrible name for a book publishing press. It's like I'm surprised we've gotten as far as we did with this name, but uh, I think people are starting to get used to the idea. But yeah, the birth of the name was probably could have been better thought out, I guess is what I'm saying.
I don't know. I think it works. I think it works well.
So
And-
far, so good.
yes. And what inspired you to put out "Shut the fuck up"? I'm performatively reading baseball hats. Which,
Well, it
by the
saves you
way,
time.
let me just point this out. You can get your STFU "I'm performatively reading baseball" cap on the Operation Dodecahedron website, like I did.
Yes, thank you, Dan. And that is correct. Yeah, they're perfect for any occasion. And to answer your question, saves you from having to say it out loud,
Yes.
right? If you're sitting there reading a book and someone's like, "What are you doing? Reading a book?" You know, yeah, reading a book. Is that book any good? Yeah. It's like, so now you could just hold up the book to your face and your hat
Yeah, yeah.
explains, please, I'm performatively reading here, but leave me to my literature. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's a time saver. It's what it is.
Yes, yes. If you're on the bus, if you're on the
Yeah,
bus.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Works anywhere. Yeah, bus, planes, trains.
So yeah, so you've signed a new author. Is this so just for data literati perspective, obviously, and I'm putting up lacking evidence to the contrary. And I've read some of
Another terrible name, may I say? But
I
please go
actually
ahead.
like it. I
I do
actually
too.
like it.
I do too.
I I've gotten a critique on the name of one of mine as
Yeah,
well, and I'm like, oh no, I gotta change the name.
yeah. I
That's
could do it. I could do it.
the wife's gonna be so upset. Now the wife said, no, I love the name, and I'm like, well, sweetie, we'll see, we'll see if we get to keep the name, but
Yeah.
the Abner obviously wrote. I don't even I had this conversation with him where we talked about, is it actually even a parody, or is it a sort of tragedy, um that an absurd tragedy. And of course yours are, I would say, sort of postmodern, contemporary, tech critical, uh comedic thrillers.
That's perfect.
Yes, yeah.
Uh, I
That's
think
sort of
I
that's
think
sort
like
of
many dad literati, I struggle with the genre.
oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
you
no.
know
Well,
the
I tried to think of what it is, and I was like, well, it's not, because it's not what's the one that Ben Stiller just put out? He put out the show where the guy works in the office park, and uh, he separates himself in his head. I forget what it's
It's
called.
a,
Anyway,
no, I don't know.
it's a TV
Uh,
show. It's a TV show that's very big right now about severance. Severance.
oh,
It's
okay,
not,
yes.
yeah, it's not really severance because it's sort of more well-meaning than severance is. And then I thought, it kind of skirts the line with Terry Gilliam's Brazil
Hmm.
almost. This sort
Yeah,
of idea of absurd systems, this mix of imperfect people, absurd systems, and the way they affect each other.
yeah,
And
that's exactly right. I like just to like reach into something, and I kind of like to see like where the gears inside are meshing together, and then like I like to see uh, the underside of things, and then like go one step deeper, kind of like arms reach from reality, not there, but then again, like if you write sort of like, and you're right, it is sort of absurdist, uh, but it's hard to keep up these days. You know what I mean? Like
yes,
you
it's
you write something which you think is like the most absurd satire, and the next week it actually comes true, and you're like, shit, man, I'm not as
yeah,
imaginative
you
as I
didn't go
thought. Like
weird
I,
enough. You didn't go
yeah,
weird
yeah.
enough.
So yeah, you gotta, but that also makes it that much more interesting because it's a look at our times just from a slightly different perspective is what it is.
Oh yeah,
Um,
the large language model AI, uh it has achieved such bizarreness, and people's reliance on it so silly, and the susceptibility of it to corruption, and um it's sort of degrading the way human beings function.
yeah, for sure.
It's,
Yeah, it's
it's
like
happened
that.
so
You know
fast. It's
that.
happened so fast.
Oh yeah, yeah, that is fucking grim. There's no doubt, Dan. But
Yes. But
anyway, on that cheery note,
I
yeah, my forthcoming novel one deals directly with the AI crisis and
well, I
how it
think it's
pertains to professional hockey. Yeah, but that's not. Yeah,
well,
like I said, you hope your future novels do not become obsolete the second you write them because things are going so fast.
oh yeah, it's sort of comedic how fast they go,
Oh man.
and how crazy it gets. And it's funny because I was reading Lacking Evidence to the Contrary, and I started reading your new book one, which you graciously sent me to check out, and I was like, wow, this could be just my life in a matter of months.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. Yeah, it's like, yeah, like one false move out there, man. Listen,
Yeah,
it's hanging by a thread. You don't even know.
Mel Brooks meets Kafka's The Trial in
Hmm.
Silicon Valley.
Yeah, um, yeah. So, like, yeah, for better for worse, that's kind of what I'm interested in, and I think what I have a good sort of handle on is just a slightly bent form of reality. Which, yeah, I hope to Christ it never comes the way I foresee it, but
The way
it's
you envision
it's
it.
but in the meantime we can enjoy a few funny stories, I think.
Yes. How does it go writing humor? Because I integrate humor into my books, just sort of impulsively. And I have a few jokes in there, but they tend to be sort of stretched out almost, or funny callback type
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
Um,
I would say like you
you
could.
have like a density of humor where
Thank you.
you're hitting lines, you're hitting multiple lines a paragraph. How long does it take you to sit down and do that, or does it come naturally? Because I find that putting in the funny, because I have ideas for comedic literary books, and I'm just thinking to myself, man, working in that funny and making it funny and keeping it funny consistently seems like such a challenge. It's a different headspace than merely communicating something like ambiance or communicating something like setting or dread or action. You know, humor, it seems like such a hard thing to make as a bedrock of what you're doing. How do you handle it as an author and when you're writing?
Uh, well, you're right that it is a challenge, and for the reason that the story, the book, the novel is a that's a subjective thing by any
Yeah,
measure, and then when you add humor on top of that, that's one more level of subjectivity.
yeah,
So, if you say, uh, you know, I like cheese pizza, but I don't like pepperoni pizza. It's like, well, the publisher would say, well, just give them cheese pizza. Everybody likes it, and
yeah,
but then when the in the humorous analogy is the pepperoni, right? If you just
yeah.
put it in there, it's like, well, some people really like it, and some people are like, I don't get it. It's dumb. It's whatever. But to answer your other question, it's kind of just my voice. Like I have a tendency to
Hmm.
sort of like, when you're writing at that sentence level, and to answer your other question, like I do sort of, I really go sentence by sentence. I write very slowly, um, because you kind of have to feel your way through it a little bit, especially when it comes
Hmm.
to, again, keeping it sort of absurd and funny. And I think, you know, there is a sense to it, no pun intended. Like you just kind of have to like feel the rhythm
Yeah,
of it,
yeah, yeah.
and you just got to hear it in your in your ear and make sure it sounds right. It's all about kind of rhythm and flow, and like jokes have a rhythm. So if you can sort of incorporate that rhythm into the writing, it
Hmm.
sort of like I guess I'm just describing my style, but that's just how I that's what I like to read, so that's what I like to write. It's I'm not trying to invent something new. I'm just trying to, tell the story in the way that makes most sense to me and how it would be most entertaining to me as well. We were
Hmm.
telling stories here to entertain people. So, um, we've added a little, you know, joke here, wordplay there. And, I always say like the key to humor in writing is that you have to force the reader to tell themselves the punchline. So you kind of have to, like
Yes.
by means of like just like a short rhythm or something that the again some kind of wordplay or something where the actual joke is never quite completed in the text, but it just triggers the idea and the punchline in the reader's mind. That's like I think what happens when people laugh out loud when they're reading. You know what I mean? Like you're
Yeah.
looking at the words on the page, and then your brain says, "Hold on a second," and then it says, "I get it now," and then you kind of go, ah, ha, 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 "Yeah." So that's what I like to try to instill in people is just that little joy in life. And can I tell you
Yeah.
a story, Dan? Do
Yeah,
you mind if I
absolutely. By all
digress
means.
for a few minutes? Um, you know, this in regards to like bringing some joy and happiness into the life of a reader. When my
They have so
uh,
little of that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, listen, now I'm going to tell this story. Like, buckle up, here it comes. So when my first novel came out, I there's a little local bookstore in my town, and they had just opened up, and I had just published this novel, and I thought, well, I'll just go down here, and I'm like, hey, can you put this book on your shelf? And they were so nice to me. They, put the book on the shelf. They invited me to like an author's fair, and I went and signed books. I was very excited to kind of have my first, author signing stuff. So, I get to know these people at the bookstore very well. They become my friends. I took a writing class there and stuff. Uh, and then this is Riverbend Bookshop, by the way, in
Hmm.
Glastonbury, Connecticut. And yeah, they are great. And they actually have a new location in West Hartford as well, which is also
Oh,
awesome.
springing up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, but when we were both kind of starting out in the book business, me from writing, them from selling, um, and my first novel was in there in the on the shelf already. I got the nicest email from a reader one day from California. It was this woman who wrote me to say, and my email address is right on the back of the book, so she can anyone can email. She says, I've been having a tough time lately. My husband's having health problems, and I'm, being a caretaker to him, and it's, basically, kind of taking the joy out of my life, and I not have been reading as much as I used to. And then she goes on to say she found my book on Goodreads, and she read it, and she said, for just a couple of minutes every day, it kind of put a smile on my face and brought some joy back in my life, whereas before, I couldn't really find that. So thank you very much. And I thought that's just the nicest letter anyone's ever going to get. And
Hmm.
it's very early on in my writing career, and I have not got one as nice since I could
Yeah,
mention. But this
that's
is
still
hard to
pretty good.
it's hard to top. It's hard to top.
Yes.
Um, I the next time I was in the bookshop, I went up to this woman who works there, and I said, "Listen to this great story." And I relayed to her how this woman's you know dark life had been given back a little brief moment of
Yeah.
joy through my writing. It's the greatest thing ever. She's like, "That's unbelievable." And as we're talking in the bookshop, this story is 100% true. An older woman walks into the shop, and the bookseller I'm talking to says, "Excuse me, Mark, let me." She goes, "Can I help you, ma'am? Are you looking for anything?" And the woman says, "I've been just really sad lately since my husband passed away a few weeks ago. I All I ask for is just a few minutes a day of something that will put a smile on my face and bring me some joy, some light book." And I'm like, "This is unbelievable. This is like exactly the scenario I was just describing." And here I am, I just explained it to the bookseller, and she's like, and the woman's right here. I'm like, "This is great. I've got to, meet a fan." And so the woman says, the bookseller goes, "Say no more. I know exactly what you're looking for, ma'am. I have just the thing." And she walks off. She goes down to like toward the H section of the bookcase over there, where I just, I see my book. And I kind of turn and look at the older woman. I'm about to say, like, "I suppose you would like an autograph with this, madam?" Like, what should I inscribe it to anyone in particular? I'm trying to be tasteful. Her husband just passed away. Uh, and then the bookseller comes back and she goes, she goes, "Here you go, man." She goes, "Here's my," and she has an Emily Henry book, like from like Beach Reads or something. And I'm like, "Come on, Audrey." I just explained this woman's exact scenario was cured. This, my book brought her joy. Like that 30 seconds ago, I was telling you the story, and she walks in like some, scene from a movie, and like, you don't bring her my book, you go get Emily Henry's book. And she's like, "I don't understand, Mark. Like, people love these Emily Henry books." I'm like, so that's a long, illustrative answer about what the life of the independent author is all about right there. You can literally have someone walk in and be like, the author is standing right there who just described the exact scenario in your life that you're going through. And you're like, "No, thanks. Emily Henry for me, please." Um, so
Yes.
it's a battle, man.
I think that's what I've heard. The
Yeah,
advice I've always gotten is no one will care about your project as much as you do. That is,
everything hereupon is true. Yes.
yes,
Uh,
is that you need to sell, 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 because no one will care about it as much as you do. And then ironically, I obviously have been reading Stephen King's Misery
hmm.
as in embracing King's philosophy of reading other people's work from on writing. And purely because my current work is a work of horror thriller, I sat down and I read it. And of course, King's experience, as he describes it in that book, which is supposed to be about him doing cocaine, right? The character of Annie Wilkes is representative of when he was on cocaine, and it's really funny because, of course, He was very productive.
Yeah, I guess you would be.
This is the old joke about Stephen King. The man was insanely productive because he didn't sleep. And the outlet, of course, at the end of, well, I'm not going to ruin the book, but um, the book is also about sort of fans and how fans see authors and how fans actually sort of glom on to the work itself, right? That the work itself absorbs different meaning for them.
For sure. Yeah. Around that same time, I was just talking about like when my first novel came out, like one of the very first sort of revelations that I had afterwards was, hearing those first couple reviews, first people talk about it. And it
Hmm.
becomes very clear very quickly that everyone will take away a different version of your book. And it occurred to me like
Oh
someone asked me
yeah.
like, how many books have you sold or and I don't actually think this, I don't say this, but you know, in a what I'm trying to say is you've have as many readers or you have sold as many books as you have readers. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? What I'm
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
is every reader makes the story his own or her own in their own way. So, your book can be interpreted differently and things that I thought were the most hilarious joke. Like you're like, I didn't even get that part, but this part was the funny part. I'm like, you like
Oh
that part?
yeah.
Yeah, like that's, so it's very interesting to me as a writer to hear, the different impressions and ideas about what the writing means because it just shows like you do have to be aware of every little piece of the book has to be just right because someone might think that's the most important part
Hmm.
um, and like I said that was something that only occurred to me from the writer side. As a reader you just think like, well, he meant to say exactly what I think he said, what I'm saying.
Yeah.
um, which may be right or may be wrong, but it's hard to be exactly what the author is trying to say. It's filtering through your own personal story as you take in the story on the page. Um, so yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it. And I wanted to say like as the person who's going it alone, you have to sort of trust your own judgment most of all. And I
Hmm.
want to credit this guy Lee Klein. Do you know who Lee Klein is? He wrote this book.
No,
It's
who's
called
Lee
it's
Klein?
it's called Like It Matters. It has like a beer glass on the front. It's this
Yeah.
book about uh, Bloomsday. Like June is it June 12th? No, June 16th. Um, and it's this funny book. And again, I kind of wrote him a note, and I heard him in an interview once, and someone was saying, you know, asking basically the same question, like, how do you know when it's finished, or how can you be sure, you're done? And he kind of just said, like, you just know,
Hmm.
and what it's very simple but very profound, I thought, because what he's saying is, so you have to trust your own judgment in the end. You have to be able to, say, this is my very best. This is what I want to present, and nothing that I don't. And you have to trust your own instincts as a storyteller, and then again everyone's going to take it in a different way anyway, so you have to be sure of your own meaning. um, so again, I maybe that's that way of thinking that's kind of led me to this independent publishing, because I just feel like there's no
Hmm.
um, no restrictions on it. It's just like, hey, you come out here and tell your story as best you can, and that's all that anyone should be interested in.
Yeah, the independent, and sometimes I feel silly weighing in because obviously my I have a nonfiction book that was independently published
Okay.
by a former employer, and I've been trying to, I think, as most of the dad literati know, sell a book, but to a certain extent, I'm doing it as an exercise because I want to understand the process, right? You know what I mean?
It's
Like
definitely exercise
it's exercise. It's a
for
lot of
sure, man.
work. It's
Yeah.
a lot of work. And to some extent, you ask yourself if the ability to sell the work and the ability to sell yourself and succeed in that arena will make you better at what you're doing, right? Or alternatively, if your goal is to learn something, right? So for example, when someone puts together a query letter, they have to write a synopsis. And a synopsis, I think people misunderstand when they write query letters what the purpose of the synopsis is, because the synopsis is all about registering the story beats so that the person who's reading the synopsis knows that the story comes to a complete end, right?
Yes.
So that they know it's not two acts, or they know that the action doesn't filter off in the second half and it just starts as sort of a cataclysmic slide. Um, and from the perspective of a new author, that's a great lesson to learn, is to be able to capture what the action is underlying the story. And I don't think I would have ever known to do that or even thought to do that. I think what I would have done is replicate um, what I saw other authors doing and not been conscious of how the story's supposed to work. And another area where this comes in uh,
Well,
is
there's some
that
science. There's some science to this. You know what I mean? It's not
yeah,
all
yeah,
just like
yeah.
vibes and doing it. Like you know, as a writer, you should, you know, take writing classes. As I mentioned before, there's probably a little bookshop or a little library or something in your town
Oh
that you can
yeah.
sign up for classes. So you go there and you read some short stories, and you go home and you have to crank out 1,000 words by next week. And there's other people in there. Like that is a great exercise. And by the way, you said it exercise before. It made me laugh because it's like, you know, so like, why do you do this? Well, the the key to life, if you don't mind me sharing the key to life on your podcast, Dan,
Well,
is
thank you. I'm glad.
uh
Is it 42?
the it's you know, in the choosing to do a hard thing, like doing
Yeah.
something difficult voluntarily, not because someone's making you do it, but because you are doing it for a sense of satisfaction, or you know, whatever you get out of it. But you don't have to do this difficult thing, but you're going to do it by choice. You know,
Yes.
someone who can sort of embrace that philosophy, I feel like, you know, will have a successful and meaningful and happy life. But um, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
I hope so.
precisely.
Anyway, I mean, that's the you know, the fucking universal theme to my novel. So I hope to Christ it's true. I don't, I can't say for sure, but
Yeah, the you know, like one of the things that I've learned is always good to keep things continue to get complicated through the second act. The second act, things should continue to get complicated,
that's right.
continue to
Worse
get
and
complicated,
worse and worse.
worse and worse and worse, and more complicated and more challenging, and so that you keep the second act sharp. And to my mind, that's not something that a person would instinctually know what to do. Um,
I don't,
and
yeah, because it's kind of invisible, right?
yeah, yeah,
You feel it as the reader, and you know, they've gone from, you know, plot point A to plot point B, but like you know, through, you know, like the rhythm of the sentences, or, you know, some sort of device you use to, you know, increase the tension. Like the reader will feel that, but it's like, it's just vibes in the background, you know?
yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
so, but you're right. Like that's not some, you know, mystical secret I just told. Like that's in every writing book there is. Like it tells you
yeah,
to sort
yeah.
of, you know, like you said, you know, increase, you know, the pace and the action in the second, you know, second act. and you know, be terrible to your characters. Like nothing is too bad for them. Like just one bad thing after another.
Oh,
Like oh, this is
precisely.
all like
Yes.
this is all written down in places that's easily accessible. And right, would you read it for the first time, you're like, holy shit, that's true. Every book I've ever read, it's right there. But
But
it's it's that way for a reason.
I don't think people instinctually know to do that, to be
Oh
horrible
no,
to their
no. But
characters.
they like it when they read it, is what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
then
yeah.
yeah, that's the secret. It's like this magic trick, then but yeah, if you learn the
Yeah,
tricks, then you can do it too.
there if you don't know to do a thing, what you can end up doing is getting wrapped up in the philosophy of the ideas, or the navel gazing, or the sort of auto fiction of a thing.
Hmm.
And in truth, that might be satisfying for a person, but when you hand over the book to another person, you're having a conversation with that person, and the conversation needs to be interesting, needs to be engaging, has to have a flow to it, has to have an element to the story. And I have to be perfectly honest. When I started out, I structured things and I thought about them because mysteries are very easy to do
Hmm.
this, right? Mystery, it's like you present the mystery that's meaning to be solved, and then you pursue the solution of the mystery. But you don't necessarily know to complicate the mystery or to add in elements. And to that extent, going through the process and learning and all of these things is, I think, incredibly valuable and sort of interesting and intriguing and fun. And sometimes it feels unnatural, um, but maybe it's good to feel that way sometimes.
Yeah, as I was just talking to my daughter about this the other day. She's, as I said, my I have a novel coming out in the fall, and it's just really getting the very final little finishing touches on it right now.
Yeah.
And my daughter read it, and she loves the female, you know, main character, and she's like, Dad, I I can't believe, like, how did you figure out how to, you know, make this woman behave? She's like, she's such a great character. And I'm like, well, that's like where the imagination comes in. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You can observe, closely. And as an author, you should be a keen observer of things. So you gain whatever, insight you can take in. And then, you just are, creating a character who's neither male nor female nor young nor dead lit age. You just have to be like, what would this person do? Like, this person is scared, this person has regrets, this person wants this thing. And it's just like, well, just have them make, you know a choice that they can, defend to themselves or for whatever reason. And that's how you create the character. So and again, that's one of those, so-called secrets, but you could read that in any, fiction writing book. It's just,
Hmm.
um, it's the challenge of it, and the part that I find probably the most satisfying of all.
Yeah, that's I like to entertain people.
Yeah, of
That's
course.
that's that's what interests me about it. When I write it, I think how is a person going to interpret that? And I've been surprised a couple times by like what people walk away from
Yeah.
things, like the characters that they're into, or the characters they miss, and I'm like, I didn't mean for you to care
Yeah,
about that character.
yeah, I know. It's always interesting. I can never, yeah, I'm
I
always
didn't care
interested to,
about
to
that
hear. Like
character.
yeah, yeah, I'm always all ears when someone will start, give me a
Yes.
full, you know, full time, full review of your book right in front of you. Yeah, just because it's interesting to think, what they think is interesting.
Yes, yes. And so your new book is I am I correct that the lacking evidence to the contrary, I want to say the Honolulu situation?
Yeah, that's my second novel. Came out
Yeah,
three
the
years ago.
Honolulu situation and your upcoming novel one all figure in the same uh conceptual universe of this um Kafka-esque slash Mel Brooks contending with the absurdities of modern techno life. Are they
Yeah,
all?
I'll take it. I'll take it. Yeah, that's,
Yes.
that's yeah, you nailed it. How can I say? Um,
Well,
yeah,
it's
so
like you said, genre, like how do you explain Carl Hyacin, right?
yeah,
So, Carl Hyacин's absurdist Florida crime
yeah, he's great, by
uh
the way. His books are
novels.
hilarious.
Yeah, yeah, this is great. It's a great example. And I think to that extent, your book crosses a bunch of genres. There's another show that I was reminded of that came out, um, which was also about a tech billionaire.
Yeah, for genre, like, for, you know, sales
Yes.
and probably common sense. Yeah, you want to be able to like condense your genre into as few words as possible, I think, business
Yes.
wise. But to me, like, the longer the genre, the more interesting the book sounds. So I don't,
Yeah.
and that's like I said,
Yes.
it's hard to, condense my own, books into that. And you took
Yes.
probably a
I
hundred
I
words to
I
do it, but
I
I'm like, yeah, that's all.
completely
It's exactly right.
I
Um,
completely empathize. I
so
write
yeah,
I
it's a
write
difficult kind of
I,
needle to thread there with the genre title. You want to be very general yet very specific.
yes, but it also falls under the dad lit umbrella very clearly.
That's why I'm so grateful for what you're doing. Yeah, now it's going to be just dad. It's we have our own genre now, right? So now everybody knows
Yes.
what we're talking about.
Yes, it's very clearly dad lit.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. Hey,
Yes.
listen, that's as good as anything I've ever thought up. So yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of ultimately humor conceptually is a dad lit. Um, I suppose unless it's about, women's shopping habits.
I mean, yeah, it is for this dad. Like I said, I'm just writing books that I would like to read. You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
not it's not the genre I choose necessarily. It's just the genre that I think a book should be. And it would be
Mhm.
difficult for me to write it in any other way, honestly.
Yeah.
Um,
And who
you
would
know,
be just for reference, because now we're going to try and sell some books. Who would be the closest example other than Carl Hyacin to a Mark A. Henry original?
um, yeah, I love Carl Hyacin. I used to I should say I used to. I just don't think he really works much anymore. Dave Barry, like his
Yeah,
uh
Dave
his his
Barry.
his nonfiction work, and he came out with some funny novels as well.
Yes.
I think the OG Kurt Vonnegut, I think
Hmm.
he was very eye opening to me when I read those books, like when I was in junior high, high school age. Um, you know, more contemporary. I love this guy David Schaefer. He's only written this one novel, but it was
What's
very.
what's
It was
by David Shaver?
David Schaefer. He wrote Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
Oh,
This is
okay.
like 12 years ago now. Um, Very funny, very interesting book. But he was like, I think, well, it's interesting because he's only written the one book, and one of the characters in his book is a successful one-time novelist whose world goes all to shit as he's trying to produce the second book. So in my mind, I'm thinking this actual guy is like he's performing some sort of like meta you know
Meta-analysis.
real art what do you call it, like a he's doing like a modern art performance for us. Performance
Yes.
art, I guess, is the term I'm looking for. um and yeah, he's telling us that yeah, only suckers go for more than one book, and that's why I only wrote the one. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, I like his book, and I'm trying to think like yeah, some of these new guys like I mentioned before, Lee Klein and Abner, and as a few more. I should have prepared something, but anyway, yeah, I picked up a lot of good recs from the Dadlet Pod and through Twitter and stuff, and again, that's it's nice to be able to support other people who are trying to do the same thing you're doing, but also um, just kind of build a community around you, and that can never hurt, for whatever reason. Again, that's how it kind of came, to that, how Abner and I found each other was we were just kind of interested in the same thing at the same time on the same website, on the same channels and stuff. And like I said, it produced a very, you know, powerful book, and
Yeah, that
like
people loved
something
when
we
it.
could both be proud
Yeah,
of, him especially. So, yeah,
yeah.
the delegation is the book I'm talking about. So, yeah, that's kind of the crown jewel of Operation Dodecahedron. If I'm not putting my own work or the work of Goalie One, my other crazy guy. Um,
Is
but I
goalie
think
one you, or is it somebody else?
no. Um, can I digress for another
Yeah,
story?
yeah,
So you read a little bit of one, and without giving too much away,
yes.
I'll just have you confirm this. Like one of the main characters is a former hockey player turned tech tycoon, um, and as I was trying to, very in the early stages of sort of developing this character, I'm thinking he has to have some sort of innate quality that makes him uniquely suited to, you know, seeing this tech vision, but also, like a youthful sport or something like that. I'm thinking, should he, so something like sort of like athletic and, you know, um, sort of like, aware and focused, but also sort of like a little bit off center, like he's a little bit eccentric somehow. So I'm thinking, should he be like a football kicker? Like, no, baseball catcher. That's kind of, they wear the different uniform and stuff now. And it struck me like I'm thinking of a hockey player, but not just a hockey player, a hockey goalie. So I
Yeah,
decided this character has to have a background as a hockey goalie. And this is a couple of years ago now. I was in Vermont. My dad grew up on a farm in Vermont. My cousins now run the farm, and they produce maple syrup there. They're a dairy farm, and they make maple syrup. And every spring, my dad and I will go up there to tap the maple trees. And like while I'm up there, I hang out with my cousins, and just kind of get in on the Vermont lifestyle. And after tapping one day, I went over to my cousin's house, and he was just heading over to the fishing derby weigh-in, ice fishing derby.
yeah.
And while I was there, I met this guy who is a former, I think he played minor league hockey. I'm not exactly sure what level he rose to, but I was asking. I found out he knew about hockey, and I wanted to sort of research this character I was working on. So, and I don't know much about hockey myself. I grew up playing basketball in the winter, although all my grandparents are Canadian. I'm an embarrassment to my Canadian ancestors that I can barely skate, let alone play hockey. But so I found this guy who was a former hockey goalie, and he gave me like such an earful of like sort of wisdom and anecdotes and stuff. Um, I convinced him over the course of a while um, to sort of assemble all this hockey goalie knowledge he had. It was very sort of profound, like it's
Yeah,
funny. Like I mean to make light of it. It's like it's very serious to him, and it's serious. If you choose to make it that way, it's you can easily replace the word goalie with you know, uh, you know, anything. It's basically a book about sort of self belief, and it's like
yes,
the like I said, the goal of life, and the purpose of succeeding in life is choosing to do hard things. So this book is like
yeah.
about focus and exercise and concentrate and do all this stuff. But it's very I find it very amusing in the hockey context. Um, and he was having fun with it too. I don't mean to make light of his life's work, but he's a very very interesting writer. It's just a short book. I think it's only like it's like 30 pages, and it's got some note pages in the back because he's like, you have to keep a journal, and it's like this little guide to, I'm dying to hear, or as I had, got that email before of someone writing in like, I am so excited for the first email from a actual goalie who writes in and is like, this book changed my life. Last year I was a sieve, and now I'm, turning away shots. Like, um, I'm waiting for the success story, the endorsement to come through from, Jeremy Swayman or somebody. I don't know, but that'll be interesting.
Yeah,
Like I
it's
said, I think it works. I'm not a goalie myself, but it doesn't sound like bullshit to me.
yeah, my mother met Ray Bork at an ice fishing derby. I don't know what it
Yeah,
is about I don't know
yeah.
what
It's
it is about
hockey players.
hockey players
They love
and
ice.
showing up at ice. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just bring this ice with you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a rich area. I'm telling you, I got a whole other book out of it. Although, yeah, slow sales on that one for now. But like I said, once I get a endorsement from a Vezina Trophy winner or something like that, then look out. That
Yeah, it'll be
it'll
huge.
outsell us all. Yeah.
Yeah, no. My daughter wants to learn how to ice skate. And I look at her and I'm like, you don't like falling down enough.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Well, you got to start young though.
Yeah, I
You said
know,
she's
I know.
kindergarten. Yeah. That's
I
um,
gotta get her out there. I will do it. I will do it. But I know her and I'm just looking at her and I'm like, sweetie, you don't like falling down
yeah.
at
Yeah. Yeah.
all.
No, you have
Uh
to.
you have to sort of like falling down a
Yeah.
little bit
School of
until
hard
you
knocks,
get
baby.
until you get the flow as with your goalie
Yeah.
explains until you sort of adjust to it.
Preach, Dan.
Yes, exactly. I'm sure there's a science to staying on your feet on ice skates, but it doesn't feel like that until you're up there.
I think it's mostly magic.
It is mostly magic. But anyway, so let's go through them all. That's Operation Dodecahedron.
Yes,
Uh,
available from Operation Dodecahedron.
you can
May
get
I'm
your
on my straights now. Lacking evidence to the contrary, 2020. The prequel to Lacking Evidence to the Contrary, the Honolulu Situation,
mhm.
released in 2023. The Delegation by Abner Landis, historical fiction with unique and varied narratives and viewpoints, a modern
Indeed.
classic, available 2025. I guess that came out.
Yeah, one of the Dadlet's top
Yeah,
reads of last year.
one, a future novel by yours truly, Mark A. Henry, coming out in. Oh, and I'm sorry, my hockey performance manual by Goalie One, released December 25th, 2025. Uh, Available now, bargain price. Wisdom lays within.
Yes, not to
And
mention,
then, yeah,
shut
my
the fuck up. I'm performatively reading hats
yeah, we're
from
in the
Operation Dodecahedron.
sportswear department.
Yeah, I basically have the entire Operation Dodecahedron library plus hat.
The wheel, that's what we call that.
Oh, is that what it's called?
Yeah, I think first one, Dan. Welcome to the club.
Yeah, yeah. Dad lit all of it dad lit.
Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah. Funny.
Well, Mark, thank you for coming on. And I mean, obviously, we'll have you back on once one comes out. And your new guy, I imagine, is also dad lit.
Love it.
And
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
have
He's
to
got like
have
a
him on.
yeah. We're like I said, we're still kind of under the hood on that one, but release in 2027 is the goal.
Oh,
And Stephen Shacklin
great.
is the author's name. Yeah, he's a great funny writer also.
Well, terrific. Well, Mark, thank you so much. That's Mark A. Henry. from Operation Dodecahedron is a stack of good books, and they'll teach you how to be a goalie with flow. Thanks for coming on, Mark.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
Our time together has come to an end. It's time to return to your wife, kids, and friends. It's time to pick up those books you forgot while you wait for the next Dad Lit Pod.